I'm going to give a little bit about the format of what we're going to do today, and then hand it over to the next round of presenters. So every month, what we try to do is we have presentations, Q&A, and a networking. So the way it's going to go is I'm going to introduce Ahmed, who's one of my best friends because he's so super helpful in helping create these webinars. He is going to introduce a couple of special guests, and then I will introduce Mark, who he will in turn present our esteemed guests from Japan, who it's very, very late for them. It's 10 a.m. Central here, but I believe almost midnight there. So they're getting a little bit sleepy, but I think we'll liven them up during this webinar. And then after they're done presenting, they'll both present for, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes or so. We will have a Q&A. So what you will use is there's a Q&A session. Feel free to ask your questions at any point for when anyone is presenting, and Mark will help facilitate asking those questions after they're done presenting. And then after a Q&A session, we will have a networking session. And the way that works is it's best if you are live on the Zoom versus calling on the Zoom, because you will raise your hand and we will call you in for the networking session where we introduce ourselves and we talk about a commercial need and want, whether it's globally. And if you don't have a transaction that you're looking to help present, you might just say, hey, I'm here to learn more commercially, or just network with other commercial practitioners. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Ahmed, who was our previous chair of NICAR CGBN. He is also Global Ambassador of the Year from last year. He's super amazing, super helpful. And if you didn't know him before, you should definitely know him because he's the best. So Ahmed, if you could please introduce our special guest and say a little bit about what we're doing.
Thank you, Teresa. As Teresa mentioned, I'm a has-been, but I'm the Global Ambassador to South Africa, Ghana, and Nigeria. And my utmost pleasure to introduce one of our stars from the global team at NICAR, and Supap is the Manager of Governance and Global Volunteer Services and Member Experiences. Supap, please unmute yourself and tell everybody about what you do at NICAR. Thank you, Supap.
Thank you so much, Ahmed, as always. Hi, everyone. As Ahmed mentioned, I'm on the NICAR staff as Manager of Governance and Global Volunteer Services. What that means is I get to work with our amazing global volunteers every day. And I'm just a guest here, and it's really too kind of Ahmed and Teresa to invite me, but I will keep it brief so that you can start enjoying the programming today. But a huge shout out to Ahmed Badat, Yoshi Takeda, and Mark Kitabayashi, 3 of NICAR's 32 global ambassadors, for helping to make today's event a success. And some in the audience may know that NICAR global volunteers are often asked to share their expertise on webinars like this one. We're just really grateful for their help, and I hope that you will learn a lot from today's session. You sure do have some serious experts on the panel today, and so I'll let you get to it. And thank you again, everyone.
Thank you, Supap. And now I'd like to introduce our special guest, Mr. Yoshi Takeda-san. Yoshi has been involved in the real estate sector in the US for the last 20 years. He's originally from Osaka, Japan, and we're hoping to make a trip the next year, Yoshi, so we've got to work on that. Yoshi is also the chair of the NICAR CIPS committee, and he's the global ambassador to Indonesia, Cambodia, and Vietnam, and was the first ambassador appointed to Mongolia. So Yoshi, go ahead. Just tell us a little bit about and thank you for bringing this panel together.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. As Ahmed say, I'm a global ambassador to 3 countries, ambassador to Cambodia, Indonesia, Vietnam. My main duty is to maintain the relationship between NAR and our cooperating partner for these 3 countries. And I'm also a NAR CIPS advisory board chair. And CIPS is the only international designation offered by National Association of Realtors. It's a 5 days intensive global real estate training to earn these designations. And we are so proud to announce that we are currently have about 4,000 members around the world, over 75 countries. And today we are so excited to have 2 guest speakers from Japan. In Japan, there are 5 associations that has bilateral agreement with NAR. And our main contact association is JARECO, and I think Mark can speak to a little bit more about. We have about 600 IRM, which is International Realtor members in Japan, and about 50 CIPS designees there. And we have some CRS designee members there also. And today we are going to learn about real estate market in Japan and how they practice real estate there and how we can work together. And my mentor always told me, more we learn, more we earn. So let's get started. Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you, Yoshi. Teresa, it's all yours.
Thank you, Ahmed, Yoshi, Supap. Thank you so much for helping organize this presentation today. So helping us moderate today, in part because I was a little scared that I would not always identify everything in the accent, even though, just a little bit background, my dad served in Japan for 2 years. He was in the US military, and he lived in Japan for 2 years. And I remember asking him to teach me some Japanese, and all he did is give me the book to say, well, this is how I learned. So that wasn't a very effective way for me to learn Japanese. So Mark was so kind enough to help in moderate. And see, with the names, I want to say Mark Kitabashi. So he'll correct me if I said it wrong, but he has so many designations after his name. I'm not even sure how he fits that all on a business card. He is not just a realtor out of Washington, but he plays many roles, and he is the 2022 NAR Global Coordinator for Asia Pacific. So he has outstanding credentials and is going to be very helpful in help facilitating the session today, introducing our 2 presenters, and then afterwards moderating our Q&A. So when that happens, please do feel free at any point to write your questions in the Q&A, and he will be on the lookout for those and help ask those questions. So without further ado, Mark, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for whoever's part of the participants. My name is Mark Kitabayashi. Thank you for the introduction. And I am the Global Coordinator for Asia Pacific, which covers from about Japan, China, all the way down to Australia, New Zealand, to about India. And basically, my region, we have 5 regional coordinators throughout the world for NAR. And I cover over half of the population in the world in my region. And just a quick background on it for Japan as well. NAR has been involved with Japan for over 20 years with our bilateral partners. I've been past NAR Global Ambassador to Japan, and I'm originally born in Japan. I've been here for a long time. I practice in Seattle. And my main practices are residential, but I do some investment properties, especially in US on apartment, sometimes relating to residential I have done for Japan as well. So hopefully today's presentation, you're going to learn quite a lot. And also on the commercial side of it, the CCIM and CPMs are widely in Japan as well. They teach all these classes in Japanese as well. So, I mean, it's CCIM and CPM on the commercial side has been there almost as long as NAR is, even before that they started the relationship. So I want to introduce my first speaker, Mr. Arihiro Shintani, Ari, we could call him Ari. And he does the designation of CPM and CCIM, and he was also a president of CCM in Japan in 2020. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Shintani, and he'll have about 10 minutes to speak. Then after that, I'll introduce Mr. Hirose, our second speaker. Thank you, Ari-san.
Okay, thank you for introducing me as a Mark. So my name is Ari Hiroshintani, just call me Ari. Fortunately or unfortunately, due to the time difference, so the current 12 midnight now. So I'm getting sleepy, but you are in the morning, right? So thank you for attending that time difference. So anyway. So I'm currently 40 years old in the CCM and the CPM, my place is located in the Hyogo city, so that's nearby Osaka. So my town is Ashiya. That is one of the richest town in Japan. Sounds like Beverly Hills. So this is very beauty town, and the river and the mountain, and that's the kind of the our city. So my part, I'm currently working with foreign people like Hong Kong, like Taiwanese, those kinds of things. But due to the low reason, so my part is somehow the negative side of Japan. So, and Hirose will be taking care of the positive side of Japan. So that's the part of the we discussed. So the separation of our discussion. So quickly, so I prepared a lot of slides, but in the 10 minutes, that's not enough to speak all of the things. So my presentation will be distributed by the someone, I don't know. But anyway, so I will speak about the real estate market in Japan. So the current positive side is that the government corona loan causes money to flow, a lot of money. So they're highly motivated to invest. So the people who were set up by the very people due to high stake, the prices are participating in the investing. But negative side, the population decline. So that's how can I say, the less rent fee or like those kind of things. And many properties are built because there are no housing supply restrictions. That's a completely different compared with Japan and the US. So that's a comparison of the chart. You can see the cumulative housing investment and the housing assets in Japan and the United States. In the US, the parts where the investment amount exceeds the stock. That's a usual thing for the US person. But due to the those kind of the regulation difference. So difference between cumulative investment amount and the stock amount is the different compared with the US and Japan. So that's why the stock market itself are not built like in the US. So the currently, honestly speaking, the Japan market itself, so it's like a scrap and build market in Japan. So that's a complete difference. So you will need to concentrate or think about that. So. And the GPI ratio transitive graph is currently, so in the 2015, so like 8 to 65% of the GPI ratio is the neutral at that situation. But they're getting less and less and less and less, and currently the 7 to 6% so far the GPI ratio. And compared with the other countries, that's still so far. And the property loan itself is lower than the other countries. So the 0.5% or 3% to the 3%. So that means that the gap compared with the loan to the GPI ratio. So that means you can get money more easy if you can get a loan. So that's a situation. But then how to find the purchase the real estate? So but that's a difficulty. The mostly the language reason. So my interest. So you need to find the agent, but English content is not available in Japan. So need to find an agent who can speak English or find the English speaking partner in Japan. So that's a situation in Japan. My steps of to the purchase real estate in Japan is mostly same compared with the US. So dedicated broker perform all steps: the find and the price and loan, sign deposit, the purchase it. The responsibility while owning the real estate itself is property tax itself is 1.4% against the standard taxable amount. The property manager fee is the more or less the 5% against rent fee. Building maintenance fee is case by case, so we need to estimate the building by building. My equated base it's a time by time. So the water heater or like air conditioner, those kind of things. But compared with the US, no need to pay is the utility for the rent space. So those fee should be paid by tenant. So the unpaid rent collection. So guarantee company system becomes the measure. And if you sell the property in Japan, so this is also mostly same. So dedicated broker perform the all steps. You set the plan, and the broker will negotiate and the contract in the payment. But characteristics of the real estate market somehow different. So in Japan, so a lot of rivers and the mountains and beside the sea. So there's a little flat land. So there are many mountains, and there is a little land suitable for the housing.
Okay.
So since there are no building restrictions and the loan conditions for the newly built properties are good, so that's a scrap and build the condition. The loan period of the used property is short, as defined by the useful life. So usually in the US, so the property loan should be defined by the maintenance, a lot of the characteristics. But in Japan, just defined from the time to time, just a new building in the current time difference. So that's the situation. But why the current Japan investment from the foreign countries are not boosting is it is possible for the foreigners to purchase real estate as full ownership, but get a loan is slightly difficult so far. So, and someone asking me that if I buy a real estate in Japan, how long can I stay? So that depends on the visa. So that's the difficulty of the visa situation. So just, maybe I can answer later on. But anyway, so no registrations from the government. But this is the most important chart. Can foreign investor get a loan? So that's the requirements are quite strict. So the person in charge who can communicate in Japanese and must live in Japan. So obtaining a business visa. That's a difficulty why the foreigners cannot get a loan in Japan. So if you would like to get a loan, like 0.5%, like 2%, like a good ratio loan. So you need to settle the company in Japan and hiring 2 or 3 persons and getting the business visa, and some the responsible person should be in the Japan. So that's the difficulty why the Japan investment itself is not booming from the other countries. So I use most of 10 minutes. So I told a lot of things, so maybe it might be better to take that to the Hirose, and he will take care of a lot of positive things in Japan. So is that okay, Mark?
ありがとうございます。Thank you very much, Ari. We'll summarize at the end and some of the parts about Japan's investment. Why is advantage even to invest in Japan right now? I mean, Hirose, Ari-san touched a little bit, but for right now, I want to turn my time over to Mr. Norihiko Hirose. He's the president CEO of International Interface Company, and he's also one of the first franchisee on Remax franchise, or when Remax went to Japan. So, Mr. Hirose, お願いします.
Okay. Can you hear me?
聞こえます。
聞こえます。
はい。
How can I? やって。
OK です。見えてます。
見えてます。
はい、大丈夫です。
はい。これ、ページ2も見えますか？もし。こうやって
クリックすれば見れると思います。大丈夫だと思う。ページ2は今見えてますね。
これ、ページ2。
これ見えます。はい、大丈夫です。
はい、じゃあ。
お願いします。
Okay. Mark-san, thank you very much. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to give this presentation today. The purpose of this presentation is to give you an idea of investment opportunities in commercial properties in Japan, and to have a chance to get to know each other with participants. And I'm in Japan side, and you folks are in American side, so we can work together and create business opportunities, I believe. Well, let me introduce my background a little bit. I started my career as a system engineer at NTT. NTT is Japan's largest telecom company. I designed a product called iMode, which is one of the first commercially launched smartphone using data network, which was 23 years ago. Can you see my slide? Okay. Okay, sorry. So 1997, I received an MBA from Carnegie Mellon University, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And since 1999, I was head of corporate venture capital of the company in Silicon Valley. Because I created a very early stage smartphone, so many people came to me, and I was invited as a speaker at the Stanford University, UC Berkeley, UCLA, UC San Diego Thunderbird, and other universities. Also invited by Information Technology Association of America and some venture capitals, Accel Partners, BCM, and the Intel Capital. I also had a good meeting with former Vice President Al Gore. And then I established my own company, International Interface, to assist foreign clients with cross-border investment and partnerships. So the United States has the world's largest economy and the most trusted country. And still, I think international diversification of your asset is desirable to take advantage of opportunities outside the US to manage risk and return. But compared to financial instruments, real estate is illiquid. And Russia's war in Ukraine tells us that the investment destination must be based on more consideration of country risk. On the other hand, Fed's policy of rising interest rate and tightening quantities, that is to curb inflation in the US, will take money out from the emerging countries. So therefore, I think international diversified real estate investment should be made in democracies. That is number one, and a large economy, and number three, political stability. As you can see, Japan is our third largest economy after US, China. And Japan is democracy and only G7 country in Asia. CBRE, their survey says Tokyo is the most attractive real estate investment target in Asia Pacific region. Tokyo ranked actually the top for 3 consecutive years. So investment in 2022 is expected to be higher than in 2021. One reason that Tokyo and the other major cities are recommended investment destination for foreigners is that the regulation and the taxation system for foreigners are very fair in Japan. Unlike other Asian countries, in Japan, no legal restrictions for foreigners to own land and own buildings. It's freehold. Taxes are same or even lower for foreigners because a foreigner don't have to pay residential tax. About Asian countries, for example, Singapore, foreigners must pay additional tax when purchased. And the Philippines, Cambodia, Thailand, Indonesia, and the other countries, foreigners cannot buy land. For building, a percentage cap against the total floor is set. And in Australia, foreigners must purchase residential real estate with a permit only for newly developed properties only. And Malaysia, there's a minimum amount that is for foreigner can purchase. And again, Cambodia, foreigner can only buy unit on the second floor or higher. Vietnam, people say that the remittance to Vietnam are easy, but remittance from Vietnam are very complicated. People say that. So here's a commercial real estate example. A type of CREs in Japan. Japan's domestic real estate totals approximately 19 trillion US dollar, of which approximately 3.6 trillion US dollar is held by corporate entities. There's commercial facilities, logistics, hotels, condominiums, other office buildings, data centers, self-storages. Among them, these not handled by myself, but just give you the examples. There are office buildings, hotels, commercial facilities, etc. in Japan. But recently, complexes of these facilities have been built. For example, upper floors are hotels, and the middle floors are offices, and the lower floors are hotel reception area plus stores and the restaurant, etc. And the next page is condominiums. As for apartment, you can buy a whole building or you can buy in unit condo. Don't you think it's very cheap for Americans? It's, for example, US dollar 690,000 US dollar, 440,000 US dollar. I think so. It's because it's caused by inflation and the exchange rates. US dollar has become strong against the yen recently, very rapidly changed. So I can say that now is the right timing for Americans to buy Japanese properties. I'm a little bit talk about self-storage market. In the US, there are 17 million self-storage units, while in Japan, there are only 500,000. Difference is more than 30 times. In terms of penetration rate in the US, it's over 10% household. In Japan, it's only 0.5%. This business in Japan is still very early stage, but in Japan, houses and apartments are relatively small, so people will realize a need for storage in a near future, I think. So market will grow significantly. In fact, the market has grown 7.4% recently. And it's you can start with a very small investment, like you can see 95,000 US dollars, and a very high return actually. And the next page is, this is one example. This is just a 5-story small building I sold to a Singaporean Malaysian couple. But it's a very unique example. It is located near Shibuya Station, which is the 3rd busiest station in Japan. At the time of purchase, the street from the station was very narrow and dark and a long way. However, the entire area has since been redeveloped. By 2023, the area between this building and the Shibuya station will be directly connected, and it will be reached in just 2 minutes. So I mean, before 10 minutes, and in the near future, 2 minutes after. So the value of this building is likely to increase significantly. So of course, I knew this redevelopment plan, so I recommended to buy to them. Next page is about tourism. Do you know World Economic Forum, so-called Davos Forum? Japan was ranked as the #1 destination in the world because of its well-developed infrastructure and its new unique culture and public safety. So as a result, many luxury hotels continue to expand into Japan. However, not all tourists coming to Japan stay at 5-star luxury hotels. In the future, I think 3-star class hotel brands may want to enter the Japanese market more. For example, if you have a connection with such brand, you can ask them about number of rooms, location, what type of building is needed. And I can find a good target for you, and you can make a proposal. So if you acquire a hotel that is currently operating, you may be able to make a quick transfer to the brand. And the next page is how to find your investment target. If you let us know your objectives and budget, we can work with you on the type of real estate and the investment stance. I mean, passive investment or active investment, which means that you just purchase a property and rent it out, or you can use the property and doing a business in Japan. So many ways you can use. And even after exit, you can send back to money to the US or reinvestment in Japan. So there are many plans you can take. This slide shows here's my colleagues, my employees, and I have a real estate broker license and a lawyer's license and an immigration license and a hiring license and a travel agency license. And some of my colleagues are also licensed Japanese CPA and a US CPA and architects. And other than that, we provide all the tools necessary for foreign investors to do business in Japan. However, I said that I have a lawyer's license, but one thing I must tell you is that my lawyer's license does not allow me to represent in a court. However, I can almost every kind of legal documentation, and including immigration. And if you need a court representation, I know a lot of attorneys in Japan. So here's, this is my email address. So please email me if you are interested. Even if you are not interested, please send me email, please. So thank you for your listening today. Thank you very much.
Hirose-san, arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you very much, Mr. Hirose and Ari-san. I just want to quick summarize the opportunities in Japan. Number one, there's almost no restriction on foreign investors, other than Shintani-san touched was the getting a loan as a foreigners, and that's very similar with almost every country in the world. But other big and so, but Japan's probably one of the least restricted country in the world as far as a investment is concerned. I mean, they don't even have a FERPTA. So, and now, secondly is that now that COVID happened, what happened was Japan's commercial market emerged as one of the, when the COVID started back in 2020, in the initial phase 1 or phase 2 or whatever you might want to call it, Japan was one of the least. Even though you saw about the COVID happened on the one of the Princess cruise ship, but actually Japan was very low And so that they felt that it was a very safe place to invest. So during the COVID, Japanese commercial market emerged. Residential market did not, because a lot of people are not able to go to Japan or see it. And like Artie-san said, is one bad thing is Japan does not have an MLS like the US does on the residential side. So you're gonna have to get to know many of them a lot of times, because it's there's not a central area that you could find listings. Residential side also, Ari-san said, there's not too many Japanese available in English as far as what the property is concerned. But Japanese people are very knowledgeable, and also another thing is just recently look at it. Actually, the value of a yen decreased about closer to 20% in this year. So if you really look at it, it's hard for Japanese investors to come to US because they just lost 20% of the value. But from looking from a US standpoint, we just gained 20% since the beginning of the year. So it is probably that it's a great opportunity here before the Japanese market starts taking off as well. So I think CCIM and CPM are widely available in Japan, and many of them, like Shintani-san, have that, or you have the franchise like the Hirose-san, the Remax has, that we're familiar with. So Japan, even though there might be a little bit of a language difference, but I think there's a great opportunity for foreign investor from especially from US on the commercial side, even on residential side as well. And their cap rate is mostly higher than many of the cap rate that's in the US as well on the residential investment property. So with that said, is there I don't see any questions on there. And we see that Mr. Ari-san is in the south part of Japan near Osaka, Ashiya, and I'm very familiar with Ashiya because the state of Washington is a sister with a Hyogo, a prefecture where his like a prefecture is like a state is. So I'm very familiar with that. So Ari-san, for as far as the market in Japan is concerned, in your area, how is the market right now? How's the inventory, prices, and so forth, and what's happening after coronavirus? If you could share a little bit.
Yeah, honestly speaking, that's stable and getting a little bit higher than the before Corona, because the richest people, they try to find the nice data price. It is so they're trying to get a land compared with the buildings. So that's the reason why the rich people try to find a good land for the investment and the future. So that's the reason why the stable, but they're a little bit increasing. So that's the market situation now.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mark, and there are a couple questions in the chat, but in the meantime, while you're looking at that, one of my questions is, maybe I misinterpreted it. On one of the slides, it said no building restrictions, but I would think, for example, earthquake engineering is very important. So is there not someone going around to look at the buildings to make certain that they're adhering to code?
No building restriction, meaning that other than the zoning, Japan continued to build a new construction. So that's what's happening right now. And Japanese people, when you look at residential, you look at about 70% new construction, 30% resale. That's total flop on the residential side in Japan versus US. So Japan, and because of the taxation, how that works, a lot of the building loses even taxable value after about 25 years. It becomes a zero on the residential side. So people just rebuild because it has no value as a tax. So that's one of what he doesn't mean that there's no restriction, not like we build crazy, but it's just that, they continue to build new construction or rebuild. And they tear the building down, even the commercial side, and they rebuild, they keep rebuilding. So, rather than the, renovations, it's getting popular a little bit, but more new construction is the way to do it in Japan, even in the commercial arena as well.
And sort of unrelated to that, but from a cultural awareness, if you are looking to go invest in Japan, what is something that, especially since this tends to have more Americans, but people from all over the world can come on to this webinar, culturally, what is expected? You know, what is considered offensive? What is considered grateful? Right? Because we have different customs here in the US than what you would have in Japan, you know, whether you're more aggressive or, you know, relationship building, et cetera. So maybe could you talk a little bit about the cultural differences in transacting?
One of the things that you have to remember, we do it in the residential side, is Japan is a high context culture versus US being low context culture. Low context culture is we're direct. We negotiate directly and we're straightforward, you know, when you do a business dealing, and contract is everything. But Japan is a high context culture, as much as Asia, even for some parts of the Latin America, so forth, is basically a relationship is a key. So relationship is the most important part of it. And so the building a relationship, so the business tend to move slower in Japan because to build a relationship in order to do business. So that's part that you have to remember. But as far as, you know, there's not too many business taboos compared to a lot of some of the other countries. But I think just remembering that it does take time. Sometimes it gets very frustrating for our Americans or low context culture to go to the high context culture because, you know, usually first meeting, you don't discuss any business. You know, you just to get to know each other and to, you know, maybe go out and have a dinner and go drinking. That's very popular in Japan still, even though it's gone a whole lot better than before when I used to work in Japan. But so the relationship part is very important, and relationship is everything. And introduction is a key as well. And so, you know, you please use people like Yoshi, myself, or you got to know Ari-san and, you know, Hirose-san a little bit, and use them to be able to introduce you to the right party if they're not able to do it. Introduction by somebody is very important in Japan, and that's about the only way that you are going to be able to connect. Sorry for that long-winded.
Another one of the questions that was in the chat was talking about the average pricing for residential.
Yeah.
Yeah, that notice speaking to the less than the 600,000. So usually the from the apartment point of view, like a 4 and 8 rooms apartment, so around about 300,000, I think.
And what size would that be?
What size it would be? So like a 50 square meter,
which
one
is
room,
500,
so
about 500,
yeah.
500 square feet. So
yeah.
The meter and the square feet, easiest way to do is just add 0 to 50 square meter. I mean, just roughly.
Right.
And, you know, it's like asking what's the average price. It all depends because just like the US, you know, there's hard to say, because remember, there's no MLS or central data system. So it's very difficult, but Tokyo tends to be very expensive. Large metropolitan area, Tokyo, Osaka, and Nagoya are probably the 3 largest. Then, you know, Ashiya is being the very, like Ari-san said, Ashiya near Kobe is one of the high-rated, luxurious area for far as the residential is concerned, as well.
Yeah, so sorry to interrupt you. So honestly speaking, so that's difficult to speak by the square meter or like rent fee or something like that. So that's why I'm running the CCM, the CPM, so that we should discuss on the ratio, like a GPI, gross profit ratio, like those kind of how to achieve your investment goals, right? So from the yield gap itself, so that you can see the GPI ratio from the Japanese market. Against that, so that if you can get a loan, get a visa, so you can get the 2 or 3% the yield, you can get easily that. So that's why a lot of the investors that are coming to Japan. And from the market, so from the currency point of view, that's currently the nice chance to investors. So they're like a 20% lower than from the dollar's point of view. So that's that depends on your goals, right? So that if you would like to get that, so that those kind of capital gain, so from the currency point of view, so that's a good chance for now. So if you would like to get the income gain, so you should run the Japanese market and come in. And but honestly speaking, the Japan, the population, the market is stable and from the low side, so that's easy to get those kind of the income. But instead of that, so you should run the cultural difference in there. So you should rely on the person who can in charge, who know the Japan market. So that's what I want to say.
I think, and I'm going to turn a little bit to Hirose-san. How is the Tokyo area market right now, either residential or commercial in Tokyo area?
I think in Tokyo area, the prices are still going up because it's a strong relationship with population. Property prices has a relationship with the population, and in Japan, as a whole, the population is slightly decreasing, but in Tokyo and the greater Tokyo area, the population is always growing. So that's one reason, and the residential price is going up.
Thank you. So one thing that you want to remember, I mean, just like anywhere else, you know, a lot of the smaller investor wants a gain on the out, and they want a good, you know, cap rate, and they want it cheap. As you know, all those doesn't really happen in any of the market. So I think, like Artie-san said, it's important when you're going into Japan to consult with Japan, and also really look at it in Japan. One thing that's Japan's very different than the United States is right now is population is decreasing in Japan. The birth rate is very small. So there is fundamentally, there's going to be a more item that's going to be available potentially. And also it's an aging population as well. Japan is the oldest average age in the world. And right now, by 2050, closely over 30% is going to be over 65 and over. So that's a tremendous number. So there are so senior housing market is becoming a very important part of Japan because of the aging population. So there are a lot of things that's there, and market is intricate as well. But I think as you get to know them and get to know Hirose-san and Shintani-san and others through your CCM network or CPM network that you might have, or, you know, through your franchise, or through, you know, from your association here that you're part of in Northern Illinois Commercial Association, and utilize, you know, Yoshi, myself, if you need it, to be able to reach out to these countries.
That was perfect, Mark, because I think you answered one of the questions about addressing Japan's population and how that will affect real estate pricing. And, you know, it's always a supply and demand question. There's a couple other questions that are in the chat. And if ownership, how that gives an advantage for visa application?
Answer is none. There's not a golden parachute visa like some of the countries, as far as, you know, like let's say EB5 to US or golden visa in Spain or somewhere that, you know, you invest or buy a house that you gotta get residency. There's no, but right now, I mean, as far as going back and forth, other than doing COVID right now, you require visa, but other than that, it's a free visa, meaning that at 90 days, you're able to go to Japan for free. I mean, no visa. So, and here's, sorry to take too much time, but here's a good example. Japan, central CBD business are the major cities that you could know of, could be very expensive. But if you go outside a little bit, it's very, very cheap. And plus, remember, Japan has one of the best public transportation system, train system, everything is there. So my good example is I have some client who wanted to live in Kyoto because they're very, you know, one of the oldest city in the world and very famous. So, but they wanted for their own. but hotels very expensive. So they decided to go to Otsu, which is about 40 minutes or less than the train ride. And so they bought a condominium for about $120,000. So, and they're just maintaining it on their own. So it's only 40 minutes. So, they go about 3 months at a time. They go during the summer, a little bit in the winter. They go back and forth in a train, and it save, $120,000, and their property management fee for monthly is about $200 on that. So that's the big difference. So there are a lot of opportunity as an individual. If you stay in a hotel in Kyoto, it's going to cost you about $300 a night minimum if you go with a family. So if you really start calculating, so there's a lot of Americans, actually my clients, buy property just outside for them to keep themselves. Mm-hmm. And we talked about a little bit about Airbnb is very strict, or short-term rental. There is some law that's in Japan that's very strict. So don't assume that you could do it for all year round. There's only limited time that you could do it for Airbnb. So there are a lot of things that's there. So just contact Hirose-san or Shintani-san so that they could tell you about Japan. And most of the real estate agents in Japan does handle residential and commercial as well. So.
And another question, since we were quoting U.S. prices, someone asked what exchange rate is used when quoting U.S. prices?
Just current ones, current that's on the market. It's right now about 128, 129 yens per dollar.
Okay.
So in beginning of this year, yen was right around 107 yens per dollar. So now that you could buy 129 yen per dollar now, so you gain about 22 yens, which is about 22%, roughly.
Okay. Does anyone else have a question for Mark or any of the other panelists? Which that was super helpful to have the presentations and summary. So if you have any additional questions, please type it in the Q&A. We might have a couple minutes for one more. I want to say thank you. Is it in Japanese? Would you say arigato?
Arigato.
Okay, so I know that there's a longer version, but I think that's more than I can handle. And some people asked about recording and presentation slides. The recording will be available through our NICAR CGBN page. We have a page where we talk about past presentations, an upcoming presentation, a little bit about our committee. And so we have been putting recordings there. I think we're also looking to potentially put recordings on YouTube. So working on that. And in terms of the presentations, we do have the presentation, and someone from staff can send it out to all the participants if you would like that. And then after this, we will have a networking session, but for you to participate in the networking session, you have to actually be on the Zoom. You can't call in because you can raise your hand, and that's how we allow everyone onto the screen for networking. And part of the networking session, we just ask everyone introduce themselves and to talk about a commercial need or want that they may have. And if they don't really have something transactional, they may say, hey, I'm just here to network or learn more about commercial real estate or some of the other countries represented. After this, next month, we are looking to have a discussion with South Africa. So really looking forward to learning a bit about real estate transactions there, as well as their economy. And then if you have any questions about any of the past seminars or have suggestions for upcoming webinars, feel free to contact me anytime, Teresa Mueller. I am the chair for the Global Committee, and you can find me through the NICAR page, LinkedIn, Trillium, all those. I did put my contact information in the chat, and I ask everyone else to go ahead and feel free to share your contact information in the chat. And then you can go ahead and download the chat with all that contact information. And so I don't see any other questions. If you did have one last question, go ahead and put it in the Q&A. Otherwise, if you look all the way, if you pull up the chat session, you could see Save Chat. And that way you'll have everyone's contact information, both the panelists as well as anyone who participated in this presentation and wanted, or in they were participating and listening. So I don't see any other questions. I do, Ahmed has something. Go ahead.
Thank you, Teresa. I'd like to thank Shintani-san and Hirose-san. It's 1 o'clock in the morning there, and they're still wide awake. That's amazing. Yoshi, is there anything you would like to say?
No, this was very good presentation, and I think we learned so much. Now we have to start, working with them.
Let them
now
go to
we
bed.
need to make an outbound trip. We got to make a trip.
Yeah, let's do probably trade mission with Mark-san,
Yes.
and yeah,
Yes.
we can do that.
Yes,
We would
yes.
look forward to that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Mr. Hiroshi-san, can you tell me, after you left Silicon Valley, have you still continued collaboration or business between your contacts there and in Japan?
Yes, actually, I'm doing business other than real estate. I still doing tech, high tech,
okay.
investment also. So
Wonderful.
I still have a good connection with people in Silicon Valley. And also I have a connection with Japanese large corporation. So it's still, I maintain the relationship with people in the United States still now.
Thank you very much. And thank you, all of you. Thank Mark, great, excellent moderating. This is a wonderful session. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, everyone. Again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to contact Ahmed or myself, Teresa Mueller, the chair for NICAR CGBN. You will find us on the NICAR page. We are going to end the recording and start the networking session. And our participants may or may not be, depending on how awake or how much coffee they had. That's up to them. But thank you, arigato. I really appreciate you taking the time, and especially at your time at night, to be part of our presentation.